Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Hey guys, oh my goodness, I have a special episode for you today, right? And the reason why it's a special episode, because we are going to be talking about podcasting, and I have brought someone to the show that I look up to, that is one of my coaches, that I kind of follow him and figure out what he's doing with his podcast, and so I can do the same because he has been so successful. Not only that, he has a special event for all of us that we're going to be talking about as well. His name is Michael Neeley. If you don't know him, guys, you have to know him. And he's going to tell us a little bit about podcasting and about this amazing event that he's got going later on during the year that I'm going to be at too. So please welcome to the stage, Michael Neeley. He is an amazing podcast expert. Thank you for coming on the show, Michael. Oh my goodness, I am super pumped and excited.
I am excited as heck to be here. And I just got to say, I love your accent. The Texas accent is just so great. I didn't know you were from down south.
Do you know what? It's so funny because every time I meet someone from across the pond and they say to me, I love your accent, I'm like, I'm not the one with the accent. You're the one with the accent.
That's right. That's right.
Right? But no, oh my goodness, I have been looking forward to this episode only because, you know, I idolize you. Like, you are awesome.
Oh,
and
you're so sweet.
Thank you. But I mean, in the short time that we've got to meet each other and learn about each other, like, I've learned so much already, and you're so down to earth, so humble, and just wanting to serve everybody, right? And so I knew that I had to have you on this show just because of your persona and just wanting to give constantly. So thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, of course. It's absolutely my pleasure. And by the way, you really know your stuff. I mean, I got to be real clear for anybody checking in right now. You know what you're doing. The stuff that I do is simply maybe because I'm a little older, a little more gray hair going on. I have a little more experience there. But seriously, you've got it going on yourself.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, you know, before we get into the whole nitty-gritty of podcasting, this is an amazing thing that you're going to be doing as well. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into podcasting, because I feel like people feel like they wake up in the morning and it just happens. And that is not the case, right?
No.
So what does your journey look like?
Yeah, you know, it's very interesting, Kay, because I literally, I mean, you'll hear in a moment, but this was not even on my radar at all. And what happened is I used to be an actor. That was my first profession. And I was living in LA and pursuing my acting career and working in film and television. And my son was born in 2002. And by 2004, I'm like, it's rough as an actor. It's like 1 month you might make really good money. You get cast in a role, you make good money, and then you go 3 months without a job. Right. And so it was like hills and valleys. And I'm like, that's really no way to raise a kid, plus the LA smog. So we left there to Santa Cruz. And for a while, Santa Cruz, for those who don't know, central coast of California. And for a while I floundered, like, what am I going to do here? I mean, I knew I wanted to be an actor since I was in the 4th grade. And so now I'm like, okay. And I kind of floundered around. I got in the pharmaceutical industry for a while. Then I got into high-tech startup, and I had my own startup company. And we were doing okay. We had a lot of investors, but then we started to hit the end of that financial runway. And a little sidebar that was going on all this time, ever since I was an actor, was I always pursued the study of ontology, how we are as humans being in the world. And so I would coach people as well. That was just kind of like my side gig. And then when the money started to run out for our startup and the investments were running dry, nobody was, interested in putting more money in. I had to lay myself off. And it was around that time I was coaching a client and we were having a great session and he was having a lot of aha moments. I said, maybe we should record this. And he's like, yeah, that'd be a good idea. So we recorded it. And at the end, we played it back and he said, dude, that sounds really good. You should start a podcast. And this is 2014. And I had no idea what a podcast was. I mean, I knew the word, but I'd never listened to one, didn't know how it worked, knew absolutely nothing about it.
I don't think a lot of people knew about it back then anyway.
Yeah, it was still exactly. Even in 14, it was still obscure. At that point, it was only about 10 years old as a medium. Yeah. But 2 weeks later, I launched my first show. And then, and this was what was funny, and as I'm sure you teach your clients, hey, launching a podcast is easy. The hard part is finding an audience, growing that audience, monetizing it. There's a lot more to it than just putting a show out there. So again, 14 days, my show was up and live. But then about a month later, I'm watching a webinar on podcasting. And I was like, oh, I'm doing this all wrong. This could be so much bigger, so much better. You could make money with a podcast. I mean, I literally was clueless. And so I shut my show down, hired this mentor, relaunched about a month and a half later to a 7-day-a-week show. And this was my firstborn, Consciously Speaking. And it took off to over 2 million downloads. I grew the heck out of it. And since then, I now host 6 podcasts. And I started coaching it shortly thereafter, because that's the other part, as I'm sure you know too, when you immerse yourself in the industry like I did, 7-day-a-week show. I mean, I was eating, breathing, sleeping, podcasting. Yeah.
7 days a week. And oh my goodness.
7 days a week. Yeah. And so I learned so much. So people started asking me a lot about it. And I realized, oh, you know what? There is something I can teach about this as well. And so then I kind of started helping others too, wrote a book on it, created my own course on it, and the rest is history.
Wow. Do you know what the shocking thing to me is that you were doing this when it wasn't really known, but yet you still managed to get 2 million listeners to your podcast, right? Yeah. So that tells me that now it should be easy. It should be easy to get that, right? Right?
Well, there's a lot more podcasts now too, though. That's the other challenge.
This is it. There is a lot more competition for sure.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Oh my goodness. And so you just kind of did it. Someone gave you the idea. You're like, okay, let's just go with it. And you just built on that, right?
Yeah,
which
totally.
Is super, super cool. So, Oh my God, I'm excited for the next thing. You have got an event, right? And I'm not going to say too much. I want you to tell our audience, right? You've got this event coming up. I'm going to be there totally. Like when I heard about it, I was like, I'm there, right? It's happening. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this event that you got going on.
Yeah. So more so back when I started podcasts, it's a little bit different now because a lot of people do video podcasts like you do, and they're doing this on camera stuff. But even then, I was doing stuff on Skype, Zoom. I don't even know if Zoom existed when I started, but we used Skype for our interviews. And most of the time I would have the camera on, but just like you're seeing me now, it's t-shirt up. The bottoms, we were wearing pajamas, so literally you're working from home in your pajamas. Hey, sometimes if you don't even turn the video on, you might not even be wearing anything. Who knows?
Right.
But the point is that it was like a solitary thing. You meet somebody and you're connecting over the phone and then you're done. And then you're just at your home office alone and everything else. And so podcasters don't really get out much into the world. And so I started attending the podcast movement. You've probably been to even at some point. Great conference. Yeah. But I thought, wouldn't it be fun to get podcasters out from behind their computers and onto a cruise ship and make it like, what if you did a mashup between the conference like podcast movement and something like the Marketer's Cruise and put that together where podcasters can hang out on a cruise ship, go enjoy some Caribbean cruising. It seemed to make sense. And so that's when I decided to create the Podcaster's Cruise.
Oh, that is amazing. So that's where we were. We met at the Marketer's Cruise, in fact, right?
Yes.
And, if the Marketer's Cruise is amazing. And when you told me you were doing the Podcaster's Cruise, like I was like, wait, what? Like, why has no one thought about this before? Right, this should have been done before. And I was like, this is exciting. I love cruises. I love cruises. You love them too.
Oh, I do.
And so I'm really excited. So tell us a little bit about what this cruise consists of. Why should we be there? What are we going to learn from being on this cruise?
Yeah, absolutely. So for one, and I do have to just real quickly tip my hat to John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur on Fire, because they actually did a cruise back in like 2015. He and his wife Kate, and I was chatting with them recently about it, and They loved it. They said it was one of the best experiences they ever had. And I asked them why they didn't do it again. And they said, well, the next year they kind of laid a game plan for themselves, and that if they did a certain number by a certain date, they would do it, and they didn't hit it. So they go, oh, we're just not going to do it.
Ah.
And yeah, as much as they loved it, it just wasn't necessarily in their business model, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not the first to do it, but that did inspire me, because I think they had a wonderful cruise. And so what I think makes this one different. So then now that you asked like kind of what it's about, this one is going to be a lot of networking, number one. Okay. Mm-hmm. So podcasters learn so much from other podcasters, just like you and I have in the chats that we did on the Marketers Cruise. You hang out, you learn tips, tricks, things other people are doing, because, hey, we're all trying to grow our audience, and we're all trying to find unique ways to do that, and trying to make our lives as podcast hosts easier, production services, all of that. And so it's going to be a lot of that. There is going to be a segment where we actually will be trading tips and tricks at the microphone. People take turns getting up to the mic and saying, hey, here's something that I use that does great. So people, I mean, literally, you'll be taking copious notes, writing down all of this advice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it's going to be just a lot of fun where you're hanging out with each other, parties, hot tub, grabbing pizza late at night, and swapping podcast guests. Because as you know, and the truth of the matter is, there will be some people on the cruise who don't have their show yet. They just want to get on podcasts. Great opportunity to do that. Because frankly, for me, I tend to only book people on my show if I've met them personally. The emails that I get, I'm like, I don't know you. I want to know somebody first. Absolutely. So there will be pizza and podcasting we'll be doing in the evenings, where you walk around and you connect with who wants to be on whose shows as well.
That's
going to be a lot of fun.
It is, definitely. I can already tell. And so you mentioned it's not just for podcasters, it's for those that are kind of looking to get on different podcasts as guests, right? Yes. And I'm also assuming it's for potential business owners who are looking to start a podcast and want to kind of see what it's about, get out there, network as well. So it's not just essentially just for podcasters. Is that right?
Exactly. And quite frankly, what better way, if you're considering a podcast, than to have the opportunity to sit down with dozens of other podcasters and find out what they think of it, what worked, what didn't work, because that's the truth of the matter. I love learning from other people's mistakes so that I don't have to make those same ones.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a funny story to tell you about that, right? So people keep saying to me, they were like, everyone in your network are like so much older than you. I was like, yeah, because I get to cheat with life, right? Because they've experienced things that I haven't. So all I have to do is go and ask and I get to cheat, right? And I guess that's exactly what you can do here. You're going to learn so much quicker, right? Especially if you're looking to monetize, you're looking to scale, even start your own podcast. You're going to learn so much quicker by the people that are doing it.
Absolutely. It is hands down the best way. If you want to fast track what you're doing, come hang out with other people who are already doing it and learn the ropes.
Now, Michael, are you going to be on stage training or speaking and giving us tips and tricks as well?
Absolutely. So myself and my partner, Krista, who you also met on the Marketers Cruise, will be hosting it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is totally awesome. And we co-host one of our shows together, Mornings with Michael and Krista. And she'll be supporting it as well. So we'll be emceeing, if you will. And there will be times when we're getting up and offering some trainings and teachings on, rules of the road, audience growth hacks, things like that. Because this is one of the things that I pride myself on still as a podcast coach, is that I really work hard to keep my, ear to the ground and what's going on in the industry. Because as you know, this industry is changing a lot. So much has changed since I started, and it changes every day. So it's important to keep up with that and then inform other podcasters, because some of them aren't paying as close of attention. And so I feel it's my job to pay attention and then share that with others.
Oh, definitely. I mean, even things like when it comes to the tech side of it, that's changing, right? People are switching. They find better systems, better ways of doing things. Things are a lot quicker. So even keeping up with the latest tech that actually works and is going to help us is something that we're going to continuously grow on. Right?
Absolutely. Otherwise, you'll be finding that you're using something that is so obsolete, and then you see this new thing. All of a sudden, it's like, wow, I could have been saving myself, 10 hours a week. I mean, it can be crazy. So yeah.
So Michael, tell us a little bit more about this cruise. Where is it, and where would it kind of port from?
Sure. So if anybody's interested in checking it out, you can go to podcastersatsea.com. And by the way, if you go there, podcastersatsea.com, and you decide to join us and you book your cabin, it's an invitation only event, by the way. So anyone who's hearing this right now, consider yourself invited by Kay. And there's going to be a drop down that says who you were invited by. And in that, you just click and they'll select your name there. And so we'd love for people to go check it out. We're going to set sail out of Cape Canaveral, Florida, Port Canaveral. And we set sail on November 4th. And it's a 7-day cruise. We come back on the 11th. So it's a 7-day cruise. It's all inclusive, obviously. I mean, your meals, everything. And then we do have a little bit of markup over what you would pay if you were just going on the cruise alone. But that little markup covers all the stuff that we're going to be doing for everybody, which includes an awesome swag bag, t-shirt, parties, private parties that we'll be doing together, all types of fun stuff too.
Yes. And one of the main things, I guess, people love, right, and people are always scribbling on it and making notes, is this directory that you're putting together as well, right? And that's going to be included on the cruise and part of the package. Tell us a little bit about this directory and how it can really help your business.
Yeah, it's going to be so awesome. It's a printed directory, and we'll also do a digital version. But in that, everybody who's coming on the cruise will have a full page in there where we'll have your photo, we'll have about you, about your show, what you're looking for, what your topics are. If you want to be guest on other podcasts, link to your website. We'll have all of that information on that page so that now people who meet you on the cruise, or they can even go through in advance and go, ooh, I want to meet this person. Kay looks really interesting. Let me track her down at the next group gathering. And the group gatherings, by the way, we're going to have our own private segment for dinners in the evening. So we can all hang out together, swap around tables, get to meet and know each other. We're going to have private little venues during the week while we're there, especially on days at sea. When we're in port, we want everybody to get off the ship, go have fun, do your own thing. But on days that we're at sea, we're going to have these little windows where we'll meet together and do some of these sharing events and looking over our, this directory, which is so valuable, and get to meet each other.
Yeah, I mean, I love the directory, right? Because you can literally hear people speak at the front and be like, oh my goodness, I need to go and speak to this person. And so because it is a networking event, you can just kind of dive into, in a break or whatever it is and say, I need to speak to that person, go and speak to them. And that's what happens constantly on these networking cruises, which is so amazing. And that's why we're all there. Right.
It absolutely is. And you know what makes it really cool, Kay, that now that you mention this, is like at another networking event, let's say you all show up and you don't know anybody in the room and you start talking to somebody. And after, 5 or 10 minutes, you find out, oh, well, they're in a totally different space. It's not what I'm interested in. It's not, we're not really a match. With the directory, you can actually read about somebody and specifically go look for that person. And you got their picture there as well. And it makes a difference. It really expedites your connections.
Definitely. And not only that, but you have a Facebook group, right? So people can meet each other in the group prior to the cruise as well, right?
Right.
And just introduce themselves. And so this is the thing that I love about you, right? You thought about everything, right? You thought about everything. So people feel comfortable, right? And they get to meet people before even the cruise.
Yeah.
Which is great. Absolutely love it. And so, guys, if you haven't booked yourself on this Podcasters Cruise, if you've not heard of it, then you know what? You need to go to the link. Michael has already mentioned it. I'm going to put it in the show notes below as well. Go and check it out. And because it is invitation only and there's limited seats, right? Because it's only a group of people that Michael can actually bring onto the ship and invite. You got to do it right now before the spaces go. Yeah. And guys, because it is invitation only, you do need to scroll down, pick my name. If you pick my name and Michael sees that you've come through to me, I'm also going to be giving you an additional gift. Wow. Okay, which is going to be a complete surprise for everyone that comes as an invitation through me. I know, Michael, I didn't tell you that earlier, but they're all going to get a special additional gift on that as well. Now, Michael, before we come to the end of this episode, is there anything else that we should be aware of?
Yeah, I would say this, a couple of things, especially if you want to look at joining us on the cruise. You can do it now with and depending on the date, but just a $500 deposit. And then the balance won't be due until I think the first or second week of July. And so depending on when you're listening to this, if you're listening to this and it's already July, then maybe you'll need to pay the full amount. But otherwise, you can make your deposit for just $500. And there's a variety of cabin spaces available, but I'm really glad that you pointed out, Kay, that it is limited. Yeah. We literally have a select room block for this. We can't go above that. That's all that we have open and available to us. So please book now while you can, because it will sell out.
Yeah, definitely. And also, just to add to that, if you're coming on your own, it's great. You can have a room to yourself, especially if people are wary about the whole COVID situation, things like that. You can totally have a room to yourself. If you have a business partner, bring them along because you can actually have a sharing room as well.
Yes.
Right. So there's different ways that it can be done. If you have any questions, reach out to either myself or Michael. All the links will be in the show notes. Go and check it out. Get yourself booked because you will not regret it.
Yeah. It's going to be amazing. And by the way, I'm glad you mentioned that too. Bring your kids if you've got them. I know there are several podcasters coming on that are bringing their spouse and their kids too. So yeah.
Yeah, you can totally turn it into a family event, a family holiday, right?
Totally. It's a workation. You get to write it off as well.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say that. Oh my goodness. Yeah, let's work and play together. Awesome. Michael, thank you for coming on our show and, explain to us a little bit about podcasting and how it started for you. Podcasting is going to go a long way. It's not going to disappear. It's only going to evolve. So guys, if you haven't got yourself involved in the whole podcasting thing, you're not doing it in your business, you're missing out. You're losing money on the table. Get involved now. You haven't done it before. The time is now. Get yourself booked on the Podcasters Cruise. Be there because you're going to be learning so much from everybody that's going to be there.
Amen.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, Kay. I've had a great time here. I really appreciate you.
Right back at you. Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.